Hello again. Welcome back into another episode of The Works of Jim.
I'm Diane.
Before we get into topic today, no, keep it a secret, unless you caught the promo. Want to shout out to, and I did figure out officially how to pronounce it. It's like hand or land, but it's spelled C-A-N-D. So it's Candler or Candler, which is in North Carolina. It's a little town west of Asheville. They've picked up a bunch of listeners out there. So excited about this. God's country. It's beautiful out there.
And Warsaw, Poland.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that. Interesting. Yeah. And I need to update. Well, actually, the map that I have associated with it that you can see if you're in Spotify, I haven't been using it because we went from just the U.S. to then added a few European countries. And now I have to put in, because we did Philippines, Japan, China. I need a whole world.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that in the little space that graphically I'm provided to create that thumbnail. But we need to get that updated. And before we get into today's deep dive topic of these DNA tests that I think we're all, I don't say overreacting to, but need to be careful what we're doing with our lives now based on, and we're going to certainly, as always, take the contrarian look at,
because that's what we do.
Well, yeah. And why you shouldn't make a rash decision just because a 23andMe thing tells you that,
you're at risk for something.
Yeah. But before we do that,
yes,
I need a name for this game that we came up with where I take common phrases that, and again, you don't know of any of these yet, but that's the whole goal is you can, and just much like you folks listening, can try to guess what the real phrase is, but I put it through my favorite thing, AI, put it through the AI corporate translator. And this is what, from a CEO's perspective, what they might say to their workers with these, and I kid you not, today's theme are slogans.
Okay.
Slogans, and each one of them is no more than 3 letters, unless you're counting the apostrophe or the abbreviation is 2 words. So each one of these, the actual slogan itself is 3 words.
Okay.
But going through the corporate speak translator. So here's the first one. Try to guess what it really is, the phrase. Moving forward, we encourage a proactive and solution-oriented approach to ensure seamless execution of strategic imperatives. This necessitates a collective commitment to driving impactful deliveries and fostering synergistic collaboration among all stakeholders. And this one's a tough one.
I'm thinking it's a delivery service. Is it like UPS?
Okay. And that's fair. What is UPS's slogan? I'm not going to quiz you on that.
United Parcel Service?
Yeah. Well, that's their slogan. What's their... It's like with McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time coming up with their slogan. Okay. What was it?
Just do it from Nike.
Oh, just do it.
Do it.
Oh, so my God, that was so many words for just do it.
Yeah, moving forward, we encourage a proactive and solution-oriented approach to ensure seamless execution of strategic imperatives. This necessitates a collective commitment of driving impactful deliveries and fostering synergistic collaboration amongst all stakeholders.
Just do it.
Let's just do it.
Okay. Wow. If you could see the giant eye roll that I just did.
Here's another one. Again, right. It's a slogan.
Okay, thinking slogan.
Experience the sensory engagement of our curated offering. This initiative is designed to foster a deeper connection with our target demographic, driving enhanced brand perception and ultimately increased market penetration. We are optimizing the experience touchpoints to ensure homogeneous alignment with our overarching strategic imperatives.
Wow, I got lost in that mire of words.
And this one's hard. This one's hard because I didn't realize Coke has a couple. This is Taste the Feeling.
Oh.
Taste the Feeling. Experience the sensory engagement of our curated offering.
Okay.
Now there.
Taste. Yeah.
That
okay.
almost knocks it out. You could literally have done it in that 8 words versus the taste the
22.
feeling.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Again, 3 words. Our current operational framework has been evaluated, and feedback indicates a positive reception of our value proposition. We are committed to continuing to foster this engagement and leverage opportunities for enhanced customer satisfaction moving forward. This one, I have no idea. Our current operational framework has been evaluated, and feedback indicates a positive reception of our value.
I'm loving it.
I'm loving it. I kind of gave it away earlier. It's McDonald's. Yeah,
How did you give it away?
I mentioned McDonald's as an example of a slogan. And unfortunately, I caught myself and I was going to sing the ba-da-ba-ba-ba, which is technically...
I still got it,
And that... okay, so that's a funny thing. If you put that into the corporate translator, the actual response is ba-da-ba-ba-ba. It doesn't know how to deal with that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No jingles.
No, doesn't understand jingles. But anyway, we wanted to, I don't know, either aggravate or alleviate fears that a lot of news has been made lately of what people are doing or have done because they tested one way or the other, indicating that, and you have more of this detail than I do, but, it's, I guess for me, it's frustrating because it just, again, it's a corporate world and mindset that here we can sell you something to help you predict the future, which is really, I think, at the core of this, right? And I said this earlier. Probably
from a consumer point, yes, we want to predict the future.
We're not happy enough living today and getting through today, whereas we now need to react to any medical condition that we might get in the future. And I guess this is where I struggle with the whole pre-diabetes concept.
Right.
I think we're
You're
all pre-diabetic. I think it's like, and of course, in our family would joke that, hey, we're, most women are, pre-pregnant.
Right.
Technically,
right.
Except for you, because you don't have
I don't have them parts.
Those parts.
Anymore.
That's
I did.
Funny. Yeah. And I had a nickname for him, but we won't get into that. But no. And so it's again, I don't know if it's, yes, some great salesperson has realized that, feed on our narcissism that we want to live forever. I mean, we all do, right? We mortality is, and as you get older, there's got to be a hump though, where, you either say to yourself, okay, I'm done,
right. Tag out. But some of these DNA places, it isn't just, genetic testing. They also, it's overall wellness, that they want you to continue to give them your material so that you can monitor all your different levels, whether it's, like your annual blood testing that you do at the doctor, that they will give you an optimized report to how to, we notice that this marker, that means you're aging, so you need to do these things. I mean, they're trying to be life coaches also.
And I guess where we're taking or presenting you with the contrarian perspective, wanted to take a look at, because we actually have done this recently, and I think we've done a decent job at it. Like, we talked about, for how many years we were under the impression the food pyramid was the way to go, and we got that upside down.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that there isn't any validity in any of this testing, but you have to understand what the testing limits are, because they don't point this out. And I am certainly not a scientist. I did play one on TV, but no. And the reality of, it's the information that they don't tell you that upsets me, that we're making these decisions. So, like
data-driven decisions.
Well, exactly. And we kind of picked apart the whole concept of, the food pyramid, and more specifically, the means behind calories and that whole process. We did a couple of deep dives, and I think we did a nice job presenting the opposing opinion, if you will. And in this particular case, I guess I get upset when I hear people reacting to the BRCA gene, which, boobs are great and I hate to see them go away, but people are getting rid of their boobs because they have the potential in their mind, right? It's not just looking at what, a relative in your family, had to deal with. And certainly, I hate the fact that anyone gets cancer, but to do something like that is dramatic. And remember, the Hippocratic Oath is to do no harm. How can the profession perpetrate this idea of getting rid of tissue, a body, pieces that aren't cancerous yet?
Well,
maybe
with the BRCA 1 and 2, they test, they check to see if there is that gene is damaged or changed, and that is the gene that helps you repair rogue cells. So when that gene is damaged, and it's unclear to me when this damage would occur in this gene, but if there's damage, then it's not good at repairing rogue cells. So a normal BRCA gene will help everything stay healthy, because if anything happens, it's gone. So with the BRCA damage, that it's not able to attack those damaged cells. Now, who's to say that you're going to create said cells? So, if your body is being good and not creating any, then having the BRCA gene isn't going to make a difference. However, only 0.25% of the population has this BRCA gene. 0.25%. Not 25%, but 0.25%. So what this means, if you have it, that 55 to 65% of women carrying the BRCA1 mutation will develop breast cancer by 70. And 45% in the BRCA2 will develop breast cancer by age 70.
But, no, sorry, I don't want you to finish.
But the thing is, out of all the breast cancer cases that are out there, only less than 10%, it's 5 to 10% of all the breast cancer out there is from the BRCA gene. So the majority of breast cancer has nothing to do with this gene mutation. So that's why you're alarmed that people are making these decisions when that's not the mitigating factor of getting breast cancer.
Well, and that, along with, as we uncovered with the food pyramid and looking at the building blocks for that, it was based on some scientific research done in the late 1800s by a guy named Atwater that looked at calorie energy in food we consume and made that kind of simple template of X number of grams.
And then we went back and modified it.
We not only did that, but realized only now, and now, this is where we went into the deep end of it, is that University of Arizona has decided that, hey, look, that's fine, but also the the microbes that are in your gut,
the microbiome, the spice,
and everything revolves around South Park episodes. I swear to God. But but no, seriously, it's one thing for your body to get food and metabolize it, but it's also how it uses it, if it uses it, where does it use it, upper intestine, lower. My point here with these testing. So we've been enamored with,
just like with the DNA, it tells you. The DNA tells you how to create these things.
But see, this is where, again, as time goes by, I guess the short answer here is don't trust version 1 of anything. Or, version 1 is version 1. So here we've been enamored with Ancestry things because they sold that bill of goods 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Everyone was signing up for 23andMe and all the other ones because we want to know where we're from. And I argue that point to a certain degree of, that was only based on the application that you sent in the data with. So here are your gene sample, and let's face it, that's another issue I won't necessarily go into a lot, because we will talk about how DNA and crime, and whether it's conviction and or overturning convictions, that's a whole other issue in the testing. But the reality of testing for this stuff comes from the commercially available, very cheap version of what they call the molecular testing of DNA. which only specifically targets the small mutations, deletions, or additions of specific genes or sets of genes, specifically in this case, like BRCA, BRCA2. Those are all it's looking for is known defects. It's not necessarily uncovering
mapping the whole thing.
Right. Well, so to explain myself, there's a second level called the chromosomal testing, which is looking for things like missing chromosomes or extra. So Downs is a great example, right?
You have an extra
sickle
chromosome.
cell. These are things that 23andMe testing won't catch, or let me not to make them mad.
They do now, but
well, they do how?
They've since switched to, was it the genome? Where is it? Yeah, exome sequencing. So
well, but still, the testing itself might. There, again, to your point, there's either looking at not to be because I'm not the nucleotides, which are how the reaction of genes on a DNA string do, here's I think I came up with an analogy that maybe makes sense. Part of the problem that we have is I think we don't know the timing of when this happens, because if you think about it, so you got all these genes in you. So conception happens, and immediately a lot of this DNA that has the gene program or recipe, if you will, for whatever it's supposed to do, it's creating a cell that will ultimately be an eyeball or your brain or an organ or whatever, right? That stuff is happening in utero.
Correct.
However, at what point do you have all those genes shut themselves down? We don't need the eyeball recipe the rest of our lives. We're not building new eyeballs.
You just need the cells in the eyeball.
Right. So the cells themselves, but I guess that's the question. Do eyeball cells die and get regenerated? I know the cornea does to a certain degree, but so I guess my analogy was like with skin cancer. So you're constantly shedding skin all the time.
So you're always making new skin.
You have to make new skin cells and like blood cells. And whatever that gene is to make skin, that one's being used a lot. I mean, that's like a staple, right?
Right.
That's like your bread and potato sort of, recipe. And is there a point, though, that instead of it making skin or making the skin cell the right way, it makes it in the bad way? It mutates.
Correct.
And becomes cancerous. And then that cancer one, is that the one that keeps... See, that's where, again, I don't know that we know the timing of how these
mutations
genes or DNA markers work necessarily, like with the BRCA. So, okay, you have a anomaly along the chain that is the BRCA gene. That indicates that there's BRCA on your gene.
No, the gene is the BRCA gene. If it's mutated, then that's a positive.
But that's my point. So when does it start making bad breast cells?
It isn't that it makes bad breast cells. It can no longer fight and conquer the bad cells, because our body, our body constantly goofs up little minor blips, but our genes are able to take care of it. Our body is able to attack that rogue cell, and it's a big nothing burger. But with the BRCA mutation, they're saying that your body can't wrangle in those rogue cells, which end up becoming cancer.
I see. So what we're, I guess, predicting is that because you have that marker along your gene, that there's a higher propensity. You just went through the number again. Not to say that we all glossed over, but remind us that the percentage of those that actually, and this is another part of so the timing is one thing, but then are we actually doing any DNA testing in post-mortem? That is to prove that this actually happened. Is that even possible? So that person that died of breast cancer,
right?
Did they have the marker?
Well, if it's generational, grandma died of breast cancer and your aunt died of breast cancer, I guess depend on, do you have any DNA from grandma in order to test to see if she had the BRCA?
Well, but that's okay. Mutation. So I think this needs to also have, like they're starting to finally realize with blood testing to a certain degree, we need a baseline. Not everybody falls in the same range of those that, oh my God, if you got more than 200 cholesterol, holy crap, and you take a statin. Because what we've learned too is that we do need cholesterol. Remember that whole thing? We didn't need cholesterol back in the, oh God, don't eat an egg. Don't eat an egg every day. I mean, if you're going to eat an egg, don't eat the yolk, the best part. Yeah. But that's not true either. And then we've got to, we discovered that there's high density, low density, blah, blah, bullshit. And then, so how can we make a determination on what your genetic testing today is versus what it was maybe 20 years ago, or to say that maybe those results will change? Because what you're saying is that whatever the DNA is to have created the breast cell, it's now creating rogue breast cells. That's what cancer is.
Are the rogue ones that the body can't handle.
Okay, so what does the DNA look like after that? Are you saying the DNA doesn't change? That my point is that if the DNA doesn't change because, again, it went bad or we're not dealing with it, that it would have had those cancer-like markers 20 years ago. That, to me, is how you prove whether or not this makes sense.
Right.
We all need a benchmark, I guess.
Right. Well, and I guess this is the plug for data-driven decisions, is that you don't have, other than word of mouth, what previous generations had and what gets passed down. Well, and God knows that people have, said it's a relation and they truly aren't. So, I mean, there's a lot of room for inconsistent data. So I don't know.
Yeah, and again, we're not picking on 23andMe because all the other ones went away.
Bankrupt, there are more out there.
But yeah, I was going to say the plug for there's a company called Sequencing, and they're one of the few that I know. One of the angles that you kind of alluded to is one of the concerns is that as we were building this ancestry database specifically for the, I want to say, entertainment of our ancestry needs, where we're from, because the whole
finding lost family.
Right. The whole point there was that was a collective. That data all got shared, right? Whether you like to know it or not. I mean, again, another South Park episode, you all agreed to that. And then so that data was shared, and that data has been challenged many times.
Well, HIPAA doesn't apply to it because that's only for providers and insurers. It's not for direct-to-consumer companies like 23andMe.
Well, that, and I guess the concern that we're alluding to is that if it's not private, then anyone can use it for anything. And which, of course, it has been tried.
Data is all for sale.
It is. However, if you're concerned about that, this company called Sequencing, and actually the thing about sequencing, too, is they do the next level of DNA testing. When I was talking about the different types, there's molecular, there's chromosomal, and there's biochemical testing. Each one of them adds more complexity to the results. So like I said, nothing wrong with molecular testing other than the fact that it's looking for known issues, deletions, specific sets of genes, things that we were looking for, like, again, breast cancer or
colon cancer.
Chromosomal testing actually looks for the things that cause the abnormalities between the DNA, the genes, the missing chromosomes, extra chromosomes, that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, they're starting to use that now for autism. I don't understand that connection. Biochemical testing, the third level, is where they're actually monitoring the activity levels of the proteins, enzymes that genes produce in order to do whatever it is. That in itself, again, is more sophisticated type testing. Again,
right, because it's the communication between all the parts. It is where it can go wrong. It isn't just that the gene could be faulty, but it's the other things in the mechanism of communication, the proteins and everything else that affect it. I mean, I think that needs to be looked into more, instead of just telling people that, you have a marker that you're going to get Alzheimer's.
Yes,
you may get Alzheimer's.
So if, again, comparing the two, we were using 23andMe or the genotyping to really give us that whole ancestry sort of look, right? And now from that, hey, we discovered there's the BRCA gene 1 and 2, there's the cystic fibrosis one, there's the Alzheimer's one, which is another one that's kind of making news lately. But the sequencing folks, sequencing.com, they use whole genome sequencing. So that's, again, kind of in the name. Whereas, again, it's more advanced genetic testing. So my point is that, again, we're using some of the technologies in their first iterations, and we're making decisions that are dramatic just because we want to prevent something that may or may not happen.
Right.
And in most cases, we've already got the statistics to prove that it's not going to happen. And that's the sad part.
So people are modifying their life. And sometimes it's things that you should be doing anyway. Whether it's, helping the brain map with music and movement. I mean, that's good for everybody. Eating sensibly, more actual health screening. So instead of, the genetic testing, if you're at the BRCA gene, then you have mammograms more often, or you have, but I mean, people are living in fear and anxiety with these things, and it just.
Yeah. So one of the other, I guess, angles I was going to go present is that as the government, of course, got into DNA like they always do everything else, but they're late to the game, late to the party. And so there was, in the 80s, they started requiring, or Congress said in the 80s, hey, let's get DNA from criminals, and they started putting that together.
Yeah, that's the CODIS database.
And it grew from there. So in 94, officially, that database then started to open up based on what the FBI was going to gather. So you had these regional collections of data for specific type of criminals. Now, of course, with the FBI involved, there is DNA captured for a lot of other reasons, like military people. I mean, so that you've got all that. And as it's been challenged a couple of times, and the reason we bring up the HIPAA thing is that with 23andMe and some of these other ancestry companies that collected DNA, because the FBI and the government's involved, they've subpoenaed. And
to get that information.
And they've now 23andMe, a lot of these companies have artfully gotten out of it, the argument, because again, if you're not specifically looking for something, we're not going to hand you over all the data. So that at least there hasn't been that precedent yet. But again, the concern from my perspective is that it's there. But of course, notwithstanding the intentional handing over of data, how many times have we heard or gotten the things in the mail that, our data has been breached and it's these people and our genetic code, if you will, that is now, is now out there floating around that could be possibly, again, I'm not sure how you could, identity theft with genetic information, but, if there's somebody out there that can figure out how to do it, then more power to them. But that's, to me, again, that's another angle here, is the privacy aspect of it. And again, I guess the short version of my story is, testing has gotten better. It's not what it used to be. And if you look at what testing has done from a criminal perspective in DNA sequencing and matching, how it's convicted a lot of folks. Again,
that Giglio or Googly Beach murder guy
recently, whereas he left a crust of pizza, which the crust to me is always the better part sometimes, but he left the crust of pizza in a trash can.
And they were able to match.
And match some of the hair, which I always thought he was wearing a wig anyway, but he was the architect, 20 years worth of murders. And anyway, but then it brings up the whole idea of, how are we testing? I mean, is there validity? Hell, we just watched the Netflix thing with, and maybe it was a bad recreation, but the gal that had pretended she was pregnant,
mm-hmm.
and was pulled over in the car with the kid in her lap that she claimed that she had given birth to. But what, again, you and I both kind of called this out because we knew we were going to talk about this today, is the EMS folks get there and they start wiping her down with all the blood, which, let's face it, not to give away the story, folks, and if you haven't watched that yet, it's awe-inspiring how some people think she ended up killing somebody to get the baby. She cut it out,
the baby out.
in order to claim that it was hers because she was never pregnant. And there goes my, sorry. And that was, of course, one of the last ones we had done, podcast. But so, my point there was that they were wiping her down. They were taking the DNA, which really was of the murder victim, off of hers.
Her. Yeah.
And yet, how do you present that when it has been inadvertently? My point is with DNA sampling and crime scene and the fact that they've convicted. And of course, there's a huge project of unconvicting or turning, and just as many criminals that have been convicted with DNA have also been overturned after they've served tens of years incarcerated because they truly didn't do it. And so that's the point I'm making, is that we're making these decisions where the testing itself is questionable. Mm-hmm. The collection is questionable, but the whole process still needs to be vetted. And we're making horrible decisions in some cases. I mean, life-forming decisions. And hell, what how dramatic is it that the body gets cut into? Maybe that's what triggers. We're still trying to figure out the holy grail, what causes cancer, right?
Correct.
It's probably that damn 5G is what.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I don't know what it is, but
now they're saying that cell phones are the cause of low fertility rates in the States, because all these young women are holding their cell phones all the time. Well, is
it the women or the men?
Oh, true.
Well,
they have it in their pocket right near their nabs.
Yeah,
so.
You and I have had this pet peeve that, 20 years ago there was a huge infertility medical process that always blamed the women. It's like my joke, and we learned this from our priest years ago, that the birth control pill was actually developed for men. But of course, here's the reason. Men were actually the scientists that were doing it. Let's face it, the women hadn't gotten their place in the workforce back in the 40s and 50s, and so men were trying to control their own destiny. But because the pill was causing nausea and all the side effects,
because you guys are wimps,
no man wanted to take it. So they literally said,
reformulated for a woman.
Which, here's the kicker, because of what's in it. The whole concept was to suppress, testosterone or progesterone or whatever. But it works in you all kind of the opposite, where what you're going through in a cycle is that you're producing more of that one, estrogen or whatever, and then the pill is the supplement to that. So that's why your body doesn't release its...
Right, it doesn't attach to the walls. But it just made me think of
the whole idea that whole industry of being infertile and in vitro and all these things that they were charging insurance companies for years, and the reality, they blamed every woman, whereas they never tested the man whether or not that he could get somebody pregnant, which is horseshit.
Right.
Because
all they would do is they would check the sperm count and the motility, and they wouldn't do genetic testing unless the female miscarried 3 times. They want the woman to go through a miscarriage 3 times before they test the male to see if there's anything genetically wrong. And that also reminds me of that one story that we saw, that these people were going to a fertility doctor, and they were doing not in vitro but insemination, and they thought that they were getting their husband's semen, and it was the fertility doctor's juice that was being used. And so, based off of 23andMe and Ancestry, all these people in Pennsylvania found out they were related. They had hundreds of siblings, and it was because this fertility doctor was using his own material.
That's a good one to talk about. But yeah, again, I still think, long story short, with all the, trying to present you some evidence that said, hey, look, this making these decisions now based on these types of tests, based on where we're at in the process, and we're still learning. I mean, hell, as a matter of fact, that just recently have they decided that the term mutation isn't right. It's a variant, and variant isn't necessarily a bad thing. when it comes down to, the
could
whole...
be a feature.
Certainly. So again, when it comes down to this whole gene mapping thing, keep in mind, it started in the 1860s where they mapped the genes of a plant, of a pea plant, which how many characteristics does that have? It's going to make a pea, it's green, it's tall, it's short. And so from there it came other types of things that we learned about in biology class, where we decided, hey, if mom's got brown eyes, dad's got blue eyes, that your kid's going to have this. And that has changed significantly too. No longer is it just simply if your parents had an eye color. We've discovered through gene mapping and sequencing that there are proteins that in utero help decide whether or not you're going to have pigment, melanin, in your eye. It's not just, it's just genetic,
the gene.
But it's and again, it goes back to my point, is not all of these genes react or do something all the time. At least, again, I'm trying to come up with that in my mind, at least the timing of it. You only make one heart, but the muscles, to your point, collectively, does the heart gene produce, replacement cells? How does that? That's why I was using the skin analogy. But anyway, we've got, I think that it'll be a fun topic. We can talk about the guy that did it. But, like I said, there's so many things to consider that we're still early in figuring this out.
And my analogy is, you have your genes. It's kind of like you have all the ingredients for a cake. Now, granted, if you use some expired eggs in the cake, it might not taste great. Well, you can see that, that person, if in the cake analogy, is going to turn out different. But it can also be the case that you have the same ingredients, but the recipe, the directions have gone wonky. If they told you to put everything in a bowl together to make a cake, and then you mix it and put it in the oven, or you don't even mix it, you're going to have a wonky cake. You had the same ingredients. So just because there's something going on in your gene sequence doesn't necessarily mean that that's an ingredient that's going to be used, right, or that there are other mitigating factors into how that is used.
So, and I guess in summary, is that through the genome project that went on, started in 2003, we've attempted to map and categorize thousands of gene variations and or mutations that are disease-causing mutations.
Okay.
Now, in summary, fast forward to today, the American College of Genetics and Genomics has now said, we don't like the word mutation, which of course is what all of this is based on. Mm-hmm. Things that are mutating are bad, right? So we're going to start using the term variant because a variant, they've recognized that the permanent DNA change that we associated with disease cause doesn't always result in disease cause. So we're doing things that we discovered 20 years ago, and we go, oh, we're looking for that connection. We want to know what causes cancer. But now we realize, and this is my point about testing the genes of a dead person that died of that breast cancer or BRCA, whatever. What was that compared to the before cancer showed up, during cancer showed up, and after cancer showed up? That's my only point, is that we need to really consider the big picture. But until next time, appreciate you listening to another episode of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
Thanks again.
Bye.